Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Not the 76 O'Clock News, episode 16, I think. Pretty sure it's 16. Resub. Who's the resub? Hikazu. 71 months. My God. Just keep saying 76. It's episode 76. I'll be right one day. This is very true. If I just keep going, we'll get there eventually. Yes, it is another episode of Gopher rambles randomly about utter nonsense that's not really news. Any Fallout 76 news? I don't believe there is. Good evening, Ghost. Yeah. He'll be right the day he skips the 76, probably. Yeah. Oh, damn it! I was gonna start with some music. Someone sent me some music. Well, it's one of these people who makes music for use in on videos and things, as long as you credit them. And I get loads of them all the time. Numinal Angel, thank you for the resub. And I played this one. I thought, oh, that is pretty damn cool. So I was going to play it and put it up and have it playing for a couple of minutes. As an intro, sound all professional, Gotta get professional. Chasing the Echoes, thank you for the resub. Need to do the whole professional streamer thing, YouTuber thing. Gonna need to start getting sponsorships, aren't I? Yeah. This video is brought to you by Raid the Biscuit Tin. The new mobile experience that truly is pretty mobile, actually. You have to get up and go and steal the jammy dodgers before anyone else does. Sign up below with a free coupon code. I need a coupon code. They always have a coupon code. Don't we always have a coupon code? To receive a free digestive biscuit of your... I'm hungry now. I've just made myself hungry. I have actually made myself hungry now. Do I have time to run off and get... Actually, I don't think I've got any biscuits. I'd be the worst salesman ever, wouldn't I? I really would be. I'd be like, you should buy these wonderful... No, actually, you know what? I'm having them. Oh dear. What is going on in the world today? All sorts of things are going on in the world today. I've heard Fallout 76 does actually have some news. I've heard it's crashing again. I feel that it's not like... I feel like that's like breaking news. It rained in Manchester sort of thing. It's like, yeah, well, okay, brilliant. Sort of thing. So, but yeah, apparently they're having lots of crashing brought about by people duping, as the cool kids call it. So they're having all sorts of problems there. So that's, is that really news? It's just never news, is it? It really isn't news. I mean, the title, Not the 76 O'Clock News, is so right in so many ways. It could be a 1-hour podcast about Fallout 76, and it would probably contain no news. Not really. It would just be repeats of olds. So, no news was bigger news. That is so very, very, very true. It's kind of depressing, isn't it? See what the chat is saying. Well, I can see what the chat's saying. I just want everyone else to see what the chat's saying. Why isn't the chat appearing? There's no bloody... The Twitch chat is... Oh, there it is. It was just on a delay. No, it gone... My God. Professional bloody streamer here. I'm not really a professional streamer. I'm a professional YouTuber. If I played, I'd be trolling that glitch so hard. I think they're actually banning people for it, which I suppose is good, but I say this every time, don't I? I give up. I think what I should do is get rid of that. Just and avoid it now. Avoid it. It's sort of a going joke at this point, but then so it's Fallout 76. Yeah. You're a semi-professional streamer. Streams for... Yeah, I suppose so. Well, it depends what you mean by professional. If you mean earns a living, I suppose semi. I do maybe a little bit now, I suppose. I still consider the streaming to be more of a hobby. But if you mean professional as in knows what he's doing, bloody no chance. You're a partner and you make money from it. If that's all that's required to be classified as a professional, that's me. I am a professional. So, what are we talking about today? Oh, one thing I will say is last time we discussed Red Dead Redemption 2, and I said it probably sounded like it was not a game for me because it did contain automatic fail states on certain missions. I have been swamped with messages from people saying, no, that's not true. There are a few missions that do have automatic fail states, but you really have to go out of your way to fail and do something monumentally stupid, and it's because you would pretty much do something that would break the progress of the game. There'd be no point playing the game anymore. It's not the way I was thinking when people were describing it to me. That, like, for example, there were these missions, I think it was Far Cry 2, where you'd get a mission that said you have to get to these boxes and empty them and not get spotted. And if you got spotted, it just reloaded before you'd even started the mission. And it was like, no, you know, because I hate that. But apparently that's not Red Dead Redemption 2 type thing. There are some automatic fail states, but it would be akin to almost like dying being an automatic fail state. Because, you know, most games do have dying as an automatic fail state. Some of them don't. You know, you've got things like Borderlands, you've got Dark Souls. I blanked on the name for a second. I kept wanting to say Dead Souls. You know, you do have games where the death is not an automatic fail state. In fact, there are some games where there are no real fail states, technically speaking. Borderlands and Dark Souls are games where there's no actual fail state. You know. And of course, there are games where automatic, definite fail states make sense. Things like strategy games, Civilization, etc., etc. But that's usually the fall of your empire or the enemy wins sort of thing. So, but apparently, Red Dead Redemption's fail states are things that either I would probably never find, or if I did, would probably appreciate the fail state. So Red Dead Redemption 2 is back on the list. A few people did send me offers to buy the game for me, but what I will say is I'm reluctant to have people buy that game for me because I know they want me to play it, and I don't know if and when I'll play it. I mean, I probably will play it. It's if I will record it. That's the big question. And then, of course, when. So I don't want to feel pressurized. Really. Because I've still got, you know, I mean, The Outer Worlds has got another month or so to run and finish. I think Skyrim is probably going to be the second game more or less without fail. That maybe I'll play Fallout New Vegas instead of Skyrim for a chapter. Who knows? It depends. Although I'm just at this place where I really don't want to do too big a gap with the Leonard playthrough. So I could actually imagine having Skyrim and Fallout New Vegas running consecutively once Frontier comes out. So, you know, it's going to be difficult to slot a game the size of Red Dead Redemption 2 in that easily because, of course, we are waiting for certain games to arrive. We just don't know when they're going to arrive. We've got Vampire Bloodlines 2. And I tell you what, there's a little side of me wants to do another Bloodlines playthrough, Nosferatu. I really do. I'm so very, like... I've actually reinstalled Masquerade Bloodlines 1 again and put the patch in. And I'm even, you know, trying to find a mod that puts clothes on the Nosferatu because honestly, the whole gimp suit thing was just like, oh my God. So yeah, I mean, there's a little side of me wants to do that. And if I do that, I sort of feel like that's a game I should record. And after that, we do have Cyberpunk coming this year. latter half. And even if that gets delayed, we don't know what Bethesda are announcing. Now, they might well be announcing Doom Eternal. Well, they're almost certainly going to release Doom Eternal. That's not one that will appear on the channel. That'll be a game I definitely play, and I play for myself. Maybe I'll stream it, but who knows? So, you know. But what about the new game from... Blanking on so many names at the moment. I'm blanking on so many names. They made Prey. They made Dishonored. Arcane. They've got a new game maybe coming out, haven't they? So that could be coming out, and I really want to play that. So, and there's still the outside chance that Starfield comes. I've got to tell you now, if Starfield comes out and it is Skyrim in space, that is going to be a big thing on my channel for a while. If it is Skyrim in space, if it's using the same engine and thus heavily moddable, it's going to be a big thing on my channel for quite a long time. That could end up dominating a lot. So, you know, with loads of things going on like that, it's very difficult to promise I can slot a game the size of Red Dead Redemption 2 in. I might be playing Plague Tale Innocent sometime soon because it's a short game. You know, it's like 20 hours or less sort of thing, and I can sort of get that done and then wait and see what's coming. But I don't know. So, yeah. So that's Red Dead Redemption 2 back on the list. Can't promise when. So we've done the will you play already? No news, I take it. Well, there's not been much news, but actually this was more about the fact that last week's discussion about Red Dead Redemption 2 sort of indicated that it wasn't going to be a game for me. So, yeah, it's more a matter of I wanted to clear that up because some people were really panicking that I'd taken it off my list with no good reason, shall we say. That's pretty much the reason we've covered that. If there is news, if there's some news, feel free to tell me. It's just most of the news I keep seeing is just really not particularly interesting to me. I think that's probably the best thing to describe it as. Just not interesting to me. Palermo! Thank you for the resub. You've been sub for this long, but you've only just managed to be here at work when a stream happens. This is the first time you've not been at work. Oh, good grief. Oh, dear. Yeah, so, I mean, like, and again, I can see a load of other games coming past. What about this? What about that? What about this? They probably all sound really, really interesting, but I draw your attention to what I just said. I don't even know if I've got time for a Red Dead Redemption. If you know, I mean, there's so many games I have reinstalled. Like I said, Bloodlines 1 purely because I kind of like to go through that one more time before Bloodlines 2 comes out. Whether I'd record it is a whole new thing, another thing. And then all the other games are listed. Plus, you know, I mean, I will admit, due to sort of people keep nagging me about it, well, not people keep nagging me about it, but because people mention it a few times, I did even reinstall S.T.A.L.K.E.R Call of Pripyat to just gauge what I would need to do to make that playable, just in case. Because I believe there's a new S.T.A.L.K.E.R game coming out, or at least a game coming out by the makers of S.T.A.L.K.E.R. So that's one of those things that if that game gets announced, I'm probably going to want to do a little quick S.T.A.L.K.E.R refresher. So I've installed that as well. Probably won't get a chance to play it. Although one thing I can tell you, when I did install Pripyat, as soon as I installed something like Atmosphere 3, I got insane stutters. Like disgusting, unplayable stutters. Absolutely just would not play. So I had to uninstall it. I'm going to try putting the game on a RAM disk or something, but I've tried so many different things, so many different ways of getting rid of the stutter, but it was bloody awful. So I don't even know if I'd play it for a Let's Play or just quickly blast through it myself. So that's just it with all of these games. Same is true for Metro DLC, and so there's loads of them out that come out. Will I get a chance to play the Metro DLC? Probably. I almost certainly won't record it. I've just got there's just too many things. There are just way too many things that I want to put on and want to do. So, like I said, if Frontier comes out, that is going to dominate. If Skyblivion came out, that would dominate. If Starfield came out, that would dominate. Cyberpunk would be one of the few games that nudges those three off, as would Bloodlines 2, probably, depending on the reception it gets. Well, I'd have to see. I mean, if it gets released and everyone says, oh my God, this is crap, I won't do it. But honestly, there's just so many things that could well dominate that nothing else will get a look-see. I'd say it was really tough to add anything else. So, yeah, I would if you ever find yourself asking the question, I wonder if Gopher would play this. The answer is yes, but he probably wouldn't record it. So, sorry about that. The good news, though, is I am well and truly into Chapter 7 of Skyrim, Leonard playthrough. So that's I'm getting that sorted. So when I decide what game is going to replace Outer Worlds, there will not be any interruption with the Skyrim. There will be no break in the Skyrim as far as I can see. I know I used to have quite a lot of chapter breaks, but it will depend. If I do have a chapter break between Chapter 6 and Chapter 7, it will be a small chapter break. For example, something like Plague Tale Innocence, which probably could get done in, 6 weeks or so. So it would be like a month and a half break. But it wouldn't be something like I wouldn't put Red Dead Redemption 2 between Chapter 6 and Chapter 7 of Skyrim, because I have a feeling Red Dead Redemption 2 is going to be like Kingdom Come Deliverance, one of those really long games. So, what do I think of the new RPG-focused studio ex-BioWare people have formed under Wizards of the Coast? Yay, I guess. The thing is my guess is we're a few years away from getting a game from them, so it's kind of good news, but it's sort of so long away news that I'm probably going to forget it, file it away, and then in 2 or 3 years, something will get announced, and someone will go, don't you remember, it was these guys, and I'll go, yeah, I vaguely remember that. I think it's just more of a sign that BioWare themselves have just totally lost the plot, really. I think that's the real takeaway from that, isn't it? Everyone who makes the good games has buggered off. I think it's probably an over-exaggeration. There's probably plenty of people still at the company who still do make the good games. It would be nice if they were allowed to make them, I suppose. I keep hearing about Anthem. I keep hearing that it's dead. And no, we're going to rebuild it. There's got to be an Anthem 2. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's going to be better. It's going to be brilliant. It's going to be everything it was supposed to be. Is it going to be free for people who own Anthem? Is it just going to be, Anthem but upgraded? Will I play it? Probably not. It's, BioWare, I'm not saying they're dead to me, but I'm going to be waiting until I hear the next Mass Effect, or the next Dragon Age, or the next Knights of the Old Republic game is announced. And although I hear rumours of all of these things non-stop, because, that's what the internet does, doesn't it? Such and such a person has advertised for such and such a post in their marketing department, but they've already released this game, and this other game won't be released for 5 years. Thus, I can surmise from this that all the games I loved as a child are getting remade and released. Yay! Sort of thing I hear all the time. Every single movement in the gaming industry, we're supposed to analyze and figure out what's coming. Here's what I'll say. They've broken off, joined another studio. They're going to make it's a sci-fi RPG, is it? I think it might be good. Because it could be crap as well. You know, it's I think we do make a big deal out of pedigree for companies, for developers. We do make a big deal of it, don't we? And I sometimes wonder if we make too big of a deal of it, and that sometimes it's just random dumb luck. You know, they hit the right formula for some reason, release the game, and everyone, this is brilliant, and they think, wait, and then they bring out the second game, and it's just nowhere near as good because somehow either they've lost what made the first one good, or it was only good one time, or, you know, there is this thing where we respect pedigree until they do something wrong, and then we drag them over the coals. So you can't say that when you're a CDPR shill. Yeah, I can. I can definitely say that. I mean, they are. They've got the pedigree right now, so we trust them, right? We do. But let's see CD Projekt Red, what they make with Cyberpunk. If they get it right with Cyberpunk, then yay, it's great. But again, look at BioWare. They had it. Everything was great. And then what happened? They got bought up by, was it EA? Activision? One or the other. They got bought up and suddenly everything went pfft. Now, will that happen to CD Projekt Red? No, I don't think so. But look at Bethesda. It's amazing how things just go sideways. And it's not always because such and such a developer left. Sometimes it's just... I think sometimes it's even the same people who made the great game X. They make great game X, then they make great game Y and great game Z, and then they just sort of... They lose it, or they have a new idea, but it wasn't as good as the XYZ idea, so they release game A, and everyone goes, whoa, no, we like X and Y and Z, make more of that. But they're like, yeah, I'm bored of that, and they don't want to make that anymore. They've lost their passion for that, and thus they've moved on, and no one else can do it. And I guess what I'm saying is I've got no bloody idea what their game will be like, and I'm not going to guess. And I'm not even going to guess what this means for BioWare, although it probably just means BioWare as we knew them are done. They're just, it's... You know, it's kind of like when you've got that band and they all work brilliantly together. And then they split up and some of them go off and they're successful and maybe one or two others go off and are minor successful and some others just don't make it. And maybe they'll try and bring the band back together years later, but it probably won't be the same. And those people that are left behind who don't go off and have a solo career, they try to replace the people who left, but it never quite works. It's never the same. You know, it was a terrible analogy, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. So I'm just judging each thing as it comes is basically what I'm saying. I mean, it's like Bloodlines 2's coming out and it looks like it's going to be interesting, but I am not going to be absolutely staggered, stunned to find out it's completely different to the first game and sucks. You know, if it comes out and everyone says, oh, well, it looks nice and it's got some good game mechanics, but the story sucks. Everything that made the first game brilliant's missing from this second game. This sucks. Now, I'm not going to be too surprised if that happens. I'd be much more surprised if Cyberpunk came out and wasn't as good, although I'll bet you any money there's going to be some disappointed people, because I think it's going to be different to The Witcher, and I don't mean because it's sci-fi. I mean, I think the games, from what I'm reading, it looks like it's going to be shorter but more replayable. So it could be a very different experience. So I keep my expectations, and I want to say low, fluid. Keep them fluid. Yeah? Chasing the Echoes actually reminded me of some news. Yes, Sony have apparently patented some MTX related thing. Right, yeah, Chasing the Echoes. Yeah, I think I saw a video by Young Ye on this. And that did look interesting, didn't it? That looked, for those of you that don't know, what I can gather is Sony have patented the idea of an in-game helper sort of thing, which I think is ridiculous. It's kind of like the old Clippy, the Microsoft Clippy thing that give you hints and stuff. It would like pop up, but they've patented it. And the idea is you'll be playing a game on the PlayStation and it will say, oh, you're having some difficulty with this boss. You could try what everyone else tried to beat this boss, which was to use such and such a combo. Or you could buy this brand spanking new weapon. Look how shiny it is. And it eats through these bosses with ease. Click here to buy. Sort of thing. I'm paraphrasing, but that's sort of like, that's the idea. And it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible, but it's almost the natural extension of modern gaming. I am going to do the total opinionated, arrogant, judgmental old man thing now. I really, really am. Because I'm not even going to lay into them about the microtransaction side of that. It's actually the other side of it that bugs the snot out of me. It's the idea that if I'm having trouble with a boss, it has to come up with a little helper thing telling me what I should do. No. No, 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 no. If your game does not explain what is needed naturally, fluidly, instinctively, then your game has failed or it's travelled through a time machine from the 1990s. Okay? Games should not require bosses should not require like a pop-up. There should be something in the game mechanics that explain it to you naturally, right? And indeed, more or less every game I've played, I don't know, in the last 15 to 20 years has done that and not needed such a hint thing. There are two exceptions. There are two bloody exceptions to that I can think of. One would be Minecraft, where I realised fairly early on that the people that were telling me, oh, you'll never figure it out for yourself, were absolutely correct. Minecraft it really does require that you go online and look up recipes or use a mod that tells you the recipes. It's a bit weird. But you know what? It was a cheap game and it's a game that sort of almost revolved around a community thinking. So all right, whatever. And the other game was S.T.A.L.K.E.R Skies, which apparently is a game where it would allow you to move on to the final area under-equipped and totally ill-prepared for that battle. And it didn't really let you know. It didn't let you know that you were expected to have much better gear than you had, and it didn't let you know that you were expected to join one of the factions. That was the thing. The advice I got from Clear Sky experts was, oh no, the reason you failed was you didn't get the best gear. You would have got the best gear if you had joined one of the factions, and you didn't. You stayed neutral. You know, the way I did in Shadow of Chernobyl. And, you know, that was the thing. That was my big problem with Clear Skies. Chernobyl, I could pick up as I went along. I played it on master difficulty, and a lot of people said to me, oh, you'll never figure out master difficulty by yourself. And I did. No problem. I got the hang of S.T.A.L.K.E.R, SOC, without much trouble, really. I know some, like, hardcore S.T.A.L.K.E.R fans will be going, oh, I saw your first few episodes, you had trouble. Yeah, but I got past it. I got over it. Clear Skies, I hit a certain point where it just become, I can't go forward. I cannot complete this. And it did feel like it required prior knowledge. I didn't need to join a faction. I probably didn't need to, but that seemed to be the consensus from the Clear Sky nutters, that I should have spent more time joining a faction, getting better gear, and yeah, artifacts would have been useful. Yeah, they would. But it never really explained to me that I needed those artifacts that badly. I managed to play most of the game without the artifacts, and in Clear Skies, they made the artifacts so much more difficult to get hold of. So they didn't incentivize going and getting the artifacts because I didn't know the difficulty was going to ramp up the way it did. And it was that sort of build up of difficulty that just got sprung on you, and they didn't really. I believe, honestly, after playing the game the way I play every other game, it gave me no warning that I was heading into an inevitable fail state, which I did. I went into the final area, played and played and played, and then just got to a point where it was an inevitable fail state. And I do not feel the game explained that to me at all. I feel like a lot of people who played on that difficulty probably went in knowing it in advance, and so that they managed it. I cannot think of any other games apart from those two where that is the case. I cannot. To clarify, the patent is for a system that would respond to a query from the player of a video game. Yeah, okay, so it's when they specifically ask for help. I'm still against it. I am against it. You know why I'm against it? Because it seems that like young gamers, you whippersnappers, are way too... Okay, how to put this without sounding really, really judgmental? I'm not going to say you quit too soon, but you Google way earlier than I would. Shall we say? Let's put it that way. You Google way before I would. You lack the patience to poke and prod everything until you figure out what's supposed to be done. I mean, yeah, okay, boomer. No, I get it. I do. I totally get it. And I don't want to sound like that. I don't want to be judgmental. But I remember games like Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, and there was no online helper for it. And we had to poke everything and pull everything and try everything. And me and my friend were just like, what should we do? What should we do? All right, try this, try that. And it was brilliant fun. It was utterly brilliant fun. And I suspect if that game came out today, most people would finish it about 10 times faster than the average completion time back in the day, because they just Google it the second they got stuck. If they couldn't figure it out in the first minute, they'd Google it. And the reason I suspect that is because of the comments on my videos. You know, it's like so many people. Monkey Island, same, yes. So, and I get it. I get it. It's there is something enticing about it. You got stuck. Oh, help me out! And this little pop-up comes up and then says, "Try this." But and I'm not even against that exactly. If you really want the help, you should be able to get the help. What I worry is this kind of thinking will lead developers going back to the bad old days where they almost did require that kind of thing. Because one of the things I mean, a lot of people like to criticize modern gaming. They do, right? And this is like, you know, usually these are the people you should be doing okay boomer to. They're like, games today are not as good as games in my day. Games were so much better 20 and 25 years ago. And I just don't agree with that at all. I actually think games are so much better at introducing the story, introducing the characters, and introducing the game mechanics to you. Even without necessarily having massively obvious tutorials, just sort of introducing things to you in a way that kind of allows you to learn, or introducing new enemies in a way that you try new techniques to overcome them one at a time, and you build up an arsenal of tricks, and games have gotten a lot better at that. There used to be like, you used to go buy a game and on the way home you'd read the bloody manual because it would tell you how to play the game. Because if you hadn't read the damned manual, you wouldn't know like a quarter of the things you could do. You know, this was like back in the days when you couldn't read bind keys and things, and like it wouldn't tell you could like learn a spell You had to actually read the manual. You read the manual. Oh, there's a spell book. If I press S, a spell book comes up or something, you know. So, games today are so much better at explaining things to the player in a way that's natural. And I don't want to go back to the bad old days where the game developers just don't even think like that and rely on these little bloody helpers that come up. Especially seeing as, of course, that's going to incentivize you could do this technique or buy the solution. You know, I mean, this, let's face it, is the real worry. But it's, you know. So yeah, I'm gonna do the boomer thing where I say in my day we had to solve games the hard way, but I'm gonna go anti-boomer and say games weren't better in those days. You know, games are better today. Games are better today than they've ever been. Anyone who tells you otherwise is just, let's just say they're having fun complaining. Just bring it back to the patent for a second. Warclaw's trying to keep me on track. Apparently, once you do ask for help, the system, as written, would gather data from players and then suggest players who beat this Yeah. Basically, what it does is it'll say, you know, this boss was beaten this way by most players, or it might even say, a lot of players use this technique, but you seem to be more into spell casting, so the spellcasters who beat it used this technique. It could be very, very useful. It could be a brilliant tool to help you master a game. But I worry about things like that. I don't worry about things like that. I don't necessarily like things like that because there are two types of games in my experience for me. There are games where I want to jump in and figure everything out for myself. And I always feel that when I do that, I end up knowing the game way better. Way better than if someone tells me how to do it. Especially seeing as sometimes what I'll find is after I finish the game and I read a lot of comments where people say, you should do X, it's great, and the such and such a weapon is not good, and I've gotten to the end of the game and I've made that weapon absolutely rock. So I realise that I have found a way to do things that the consensus is you can't do, but I did it anyway, and I feel better for having done it. But then there are other games where, you know, actually winning the game is the point. So, like if you're playing Counter-Strike or even Payday 2, you might want to figure some things out for yourself, but you might also want to know, like, what other people are doing so that you can improve your skill set. I'd say what it is for me is some games I play competitively to win. I do them to win. And if I get advice on how to win, I'm probably going to be okay with that. Whereas if it's a game where if it's a single player game, I'm playing to experience it. So I don't know. Just overall, I'm not in love with that idea. But that's my okay boomer side. I'm certainly not okay with the idea that it suggests microtransactions. I'm just... Yeah, Wolfclaw, you've got it. I see you're playing Fallout New Vegas. Have you considered maxing speech? Yeah. But if it was going to behave like the YouTube comments, it would just keep coming up every 10 minutes. Every single time I failed a speech check, it would come up with another thing going, see? I told you speech was important. Actually, I could quite go for something that came up and nagged me. I'd be like... like, oh, you died again. There's a surprise. Now I'm talking myself into it. I want a sarcastic helper. That's what Quorico's for. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Oh, dear. Make Ada the voice for the patent. Yeah. Want to avoid snarky YouTube backseat gamers? Do X. Do I think it could ruin games too? Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, it could say you need X item and you haven't picked it up because you didn't go buy Y. Yeah. Yeah, it could. It could. I could see it really... I could see it giving spoiler information because somebody put in a hint that they didn't realize was something that someone wouldn't want to know. But yeah. Of course, it's got to be something you've got to opt into. So... overall, it's not something I would say should be banned, because you can opt into it. You can opt into it. You can also ignore it, I assume, as long as it's not something that becomes. You see, what worries me about certain things is you can often use the argument of, well, okay, it's optional, so you don't need to do it, but then the games companies can start making it so that while you have the option not to do it, not doing it becomes progressively more painful. That's the danger of things like microtransactions, right? So it's sort of like you have the option of not engaging with the microtransactions, but they have the option of making the game more and more painful for you so that your option to not engage with the microtransactions just starts to annoy you. And that, of course, is the problem. So could they start making the game more painful if you don't have the advisor advising you? And thus also suggesting microtransactions? I mean, maybe you can change the settings. You can give me advice, but you may not give me microtransactions. But would they find ways to sort of, let's say bypass it, but sort of bypass it? For example, well, yes, the way to beat this boss is to actually have a weapon that's much more powerful. Not mention any particular weapons, just leave, you just need a much more powerful weapon. Or maybe even do an even less subtle one. Unfortunately, there's not many more weapons that are freely available that are as powerful as the one you've got, so... ooh, yeah, bit of a bummer, that one. Obviously, they'd probably word it a little differently. But, you do get that potential, don't you? I know it doesn't mean they'll put it in the game. It's just something they've patented. It's like, it's a possibility they could add it. And I'm just saying, I think I'm probably mostly personally against it. You know what I think it is? For single player games? Do you know what I want from my single player games? I want a blob. That's what I want. I want a blob. I want a big amorphous blob, right? That's what I want with my game, and I jump into the middle of that blob, and that's what I'm playing, right? Nothing else. I don't want a series of little things, and I don't want like little microtransactions and multiple things to think. I want a blob. Yeah, I want a single entity for a game. You buy it, you've got the game, it's complete, there's nothing else to it. It's not built up, it's not a series of little pieces they've put together, it's just a big blob, right? And that's it, it's the game, and I go and I play the game, and when I'm finished, I walk away from the blob. And maybe they add another big blob later on as DLC, and I'll play that. And I don't want anything to interact with my blob. It's a terrible analogy, but yeah, like it's I want to go into that game and not have anything else mess around with me. Thank you very much. And it isn't. Oh no, don't get me wrong. I like DLCs, but DLCs to me, like there's a difference between DLC and microtransactions, and of course the difference is size and scope. Microtransactions are not blobs. You don't live inside, you don't buy a weapon and that's it. That's your entire existence for the next 2 weeks, right? You play a game and that's your existence for the next few weeks. Well, when you're playing games, obviously. I mean, you go out, you do other things, but you play the game and you're in the game, and it's the game. I bought it, and then I don't think about anything else until I finish the game. And when you get the DLC, it's the same thing. It may be a smaller blob. Far Harbor was smaller than Fallout 4, but it was still another blob I went into and I played it. This is why the blob analogy is terrible. But the Creation Club is not, you buy little pieces, but you couldn't just jump into it and exist in this little, yeah, it's why maybe a pool would have been a better description. Fallout 4 was a pool. You jumped in, you swam around, you had a whole pool to play in. Far Harbor was a new, slightly smaller pool just off to the side. The Creation Club are like water wings and, a snorkel. I don't want that. I want a one-off experience in my single-player games. And every single solitary thing that is extra on top annoys me. This is why I can't stand pre-order bonus stuff and all of these little extras you have to think about. I don't like to have the Steam overlay on single-player games. I don't want any of that. I don't want any distractions. I want to go into the game and have to think of nothing else. And I certainly don't want something popping up like there's someone else in the room going, "You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong." And it is different when I'm playing multiplayer games. When I'm playing multiplayer games, I have a completely different mentality. Or even, it's not even necessarily multiplayer games. Games that are skill-based, games where I'm pitting my skill against the computer in an effort to win, then I don't mind it. I'm less worried about it. I don't need to be cut off from everything else. And that's kind of what I mean. That's what I mean by the blob. Because I'm thinking of this amorphous blob of jelly, perhaps, and I just sort of jump into the middle of it and sit at the middle of it, isolated from everything else. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm isolated. I'm in the blob and everything else is outside the blob, and I'm going to ignore everything that's outside the blob for a while. That's a bloody awful analogy. Yeah, that was just an awfully rambly way of saying I don't think it's necessarily the worst idea. It's just not an idea I like from both aspects. I don't like the microtransaction aspect of it, and I'm not that keen on the advice side of it. So whilst I understand some people might like to engage with that, I think I'd probably turn it off and swear at it if it ever turned itself on again, unless it was a very specific sort of game. Although I will say, I'm not offended by it. Which, I don't know if I'm supposed to be. Because sometimes I don't get offended by things, and apparently I'm supposed to be. And I'm not offended by this. To me, this is just like, it's annoying, but it's almost a natural thing for a game company to think of. I just think that I think there's quite a lot of players out there who would go, no, I don't want that. Thank you very much. We understand why you thought it might be a good idea, but no, take it away. It's like, those crotchless pants you tried to sell me. I get it. Some people are into it, but no, take it away. Yeah. Yes. I think this feature is the crotchless pants of gaming. I'm not going to judge you for it, but feel free to never mention it to me ever again. I suppose for modding news, Frontier did release some gameplay footage. I kind of deliberately didn't watch it. What I did was I opened up the video and I ran the slider across so I could see what was going on and got a sense of, the fact that they were talking to people and there was some, places. I got like images, and I got the sensation, the feeling of a mod that really does have quite a lot going. I got the feeling that this is a fairly expansive experience and that they are fairly far along. I've also read some of the announcements about it, and it's supposed to actually have a hell of a lot of content. Like, you know, as much content as New Vegas did with all of its DLC, or at least as many interiors or something. So it does look like Frontier could be a massive playthrough experience for Jack. And yes, I have continued to work on my load order. And right now my load order is, I would say, reasonably stable. I didn't find any crash points, even though I've removed a World of Pain. Well, that's the main one I've removed. I'll do a full video where I show exactly what I've removed and exactly what's changed. Because some mods I've updated, so there's a few ESPs have changed names. That's less of a worry in Fallout New Vegas than it would be in Skyrim, though. But I've removed things like a World of Pain, so I'll discuss that with everyone. But it seems pretty damn stable. There are a few things I'll need to remove actually to do Frontier, though. So yeah, but that is one of those things that I'm probably gonna, as soon as Frontier drops, I will almost certainly be doing a playthrough. Yeah, something like 500 interiors, which is an amazing amount. Absolute amazing amount. So yeah, and I mean, it looks very different, actually. It does look very different, so I'm really looking forward to that. I will absolutely admit, I am really looking forward to the next few years of big mod releases, things like Frontier, but like Skyblivion, and I'm really hoping Skywind. So I'm really looking forward to those. More than I'm looking forward to a lot of games, which is really weird, I suppose. It's one of those things. I've been giving some thought to updating my Fallout New Vegas tutorial videos as well. Well, not just updated, just redoing them and trying to make a more modern, up-to-date version. So, you know, that might happen, but then what I will have to do now is pretty much switch to a blank profile and reinstall all the mods I've just installed. So it's something I've definitely given some thought to. And what I would be doing is probably aiming it towards a more, I don't know, like frontier-friendly setup. So there would be certain mods I wouldn't be installing things like weather mods and stuff like that. Is there a Patreon for Gopher? Yes, there is. Thank you for asking. Do we not? We should have that pop up in as a Moobot message, shouldn't we? But yeah, what happens if Cyberpunk, Frontier, Starfield, and Skyblivion all release on the same weekend? I'm going to need a lot of coffee, basically. So yeah. But then there is a thought in my head that when Skyblivion releases, maybe what I actually do is a whole new modding series for not just installing Skyblivion, but installing a bunch of mods with Skyblivion. So like with these, that's the thing with these big mods. It is possible that what I actually need to do is redo some of my tutorial videos, and I kind of like that idea. I like that idea. I like making tutorials. I don't like making tutorials for no reason. It's not. I'm not going to make a tutorial to do X when I don't really think anyone wants to do X. But like if Frontier's dropping out, there might be a new call for, modding Fallout New Vegas. Probably would only need 2 or 3 videos this time, though, for the essential mods. Because things have changed quite a lot since those original videos. So, yeah. Oh, now I'm really excited for all of these modding projects that are coming out. I really want to. You don't think mod authors will release their mods at the same time they want to play a new game? I wouldn't bet on it. Sometimes these mod authors, that's all they do. I remember the Project Nevada lead, Schlangster or Snackster, depending on which name he was going by. He had barely gotten out of Goodspring when Project Nevada finally released. And Project Nevada released reasonably late in the New Vegas cycle, if you actually looked at all the mods coming out, because New Vegas had mods coming out like so quickly. New Vegas had a modding community that was ready to go because the GEC released day of the game. And I mean, I got my mods out day one, and there was so many people. So it was like mods. Project Nevada came out quite a while later, and he hadn't even gone out. Or I think he'd gotten out of Goodspring, but he hadn't got much played, and he was relying on a lot of other people to do testing for him. Because you know, that's all he did. That is all he did. And I'll bet you any money, if you talk to King Gath, you'll find he's probably spent, I don't know, 50 times as many hours on the modding than he has playing Fallout 4. And he won't have much time to play anything else either. Oh, we're gonna have more emojis eventually one day. Yeah, that's yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I need to find an emoji artist. I promise, didn't I? And I failed. Yeah, sorry. You wish you could pay for Patreon with knitted hats and scarves. Well, you've given me an Inigo and a banner, so much appreciated. Oh dear, oh dear. And, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, that is it. We have come to the end of this podcast. Quadoco is working on the emotes, so we're probably going to get plenty of fire-themed ones. Oh, yeah. So... and I'm expecting half of the emotes to be hints for me. They'll be like Payday 2 emotes. Oh, go for loot and go for ladder. Well, if Quaraco's in charge of them, you probably be able to get go for loot, but not go for ladder. Oh, dear. We're not even going there. We're not going there. We're not. So, ladies and gentlemen, so that I do not get shouted at by Quadico for going over time, we are going to call it, yes, on time. Having spoken about nothing really, once again, thank you for joining me. I will see you guys again possibly on Sunday if you want to join us for Divinity Original Sin. I believe we should be playing. I do apologise for skipping last week, but it was my girlfriend's birthday, although in the end she was sick. But, you know, so then we had that to figure out. So, but yeah. Next week should be on, as normal. Don't think there'll be any impromptu streams between now and then, but you never know. You never know. Thank you, Chasing the Echoes. Thank you very much. So, thank you, and good night. Let's see if I've got it working. Yes! Yes! Ha! Yes, I'm very pleased with myself. Leave me alone.